So hello and everybody, welcome to EcoCanada's Environmental Insider webinar series. Today's session is called Building Canada's Cleantech Workforce, Opportunities and Challenges, where we'll be taking an in-depth look at Canada's cleantech sector. Here at EcoCanada, we have a dedicated in-house research team who make sure that we keep up to date and understand the latest trends and opportunities in Canada's environmental workforce. This helps us at EcoCanada to tailor our products and services to environmental professionals in Canada. Today, we are so fortunate to be joined by two of my EcoCanada colleagues, Claudine Vidallo and Jenny Peters, who are going to talk us through our latest research report. My name is Hannah Williamson, and I'm going to be moderating today's webinar. Before we start, I just have a few housekeeping things that I want to run through just to make sure everyone can listen to and participate in the webinar effectively. So just so you're aware, all participants are muted, so please check your audio settings to make sure that you can hear us okay. If you do have technical issues, and we know there may be some today, I've had some already and I apologize again, please can you use the chat and question box and select EcoCanada Organizer, and we will do everything that we can to try and resolve your issues quickly. If we can't, if you're still having problems hearing us or cutting out, we know there may be some issues with bandwidth or with software, please don't worry, we will send everybody on the line a recording of the webinar today so that you can watch it and listen to it in your own time. If you do have questions, and questions are encouraged, please use the chat box. Again, select questions for staff or EcoCanada Organizer and submit your questions to us. We will have dedicated time after the presentation ends to submit the questions to our presenters today. So as I mentioned, the presentation will be made available to you on demand. You'll receive an email within 24 hours of us ending the webinar today. And that just means you can watch this recording as many times as you like. And finally, please let us know what you think about today's session and more broadly about EcoCanada's webinar series. We are always looking to improve and we really want your feedback. So if you could just take a couple of minutes, you'll be sent a short survey after today's session. Please do let us know what you thought and how we can make these sessions better. So today's webinar is brought to you by EcoCanada. EcoCanada is the steward for the Canadian environmental workforce across all industries and sectors. We champion the end-to-end career development of an environmental professional, and we try and address labour market gaps. This is all geared towards supporting sustainable and responsible economic growth to ensure that environmental best practice is always a priority. Now, without further ado, I'm so pleased to welcome our guest speakers today. So first of all, let me welcome Claudine Vidallo. She is Director of Research at EcoCanada, and Claudine is a certified project management professional with a background in business management, who spent over 20 years working in a number of sectors, both food and beverage, energy, post-secondary, and not-for-profit. In the last decade, Claudine has specialized in delivering labor market studies and workforce programs. We also have on the line today Jenny Peters, who's Manager of Labor Market Information at EcoCanada. Jenny is an economist with a PhD in economics from Texas A&M University. Before joining EcoCanada, Jenny applied her knowledge and skills in a wide range of roles and industries. She has worked as a lecturer for 14 years, teaching a wide range of economic courses and supervising student research projects. At EcoCanada, she's responsible for the management, execution, and delivery of environmental LMI projects, working with a whole host of professionals comprised of staff, consultants, strategic advisors, and subject matter experts. Welcome, Jenny and Claudine.
Thanks, Hannah. Hello to everybody who's joining us today. This is Jenny speaking, and I am pleased to be here with Claudine to present the findings of our research into Canada's cleantech sector and workforce to you today. Our presentation is going to proceed based on the outline shown. We're going to start with an overview of the study's research scope and methodology to give you an overview, some context. Following that, we will present some trends in the cleantech activity, both in Canada and globally. Next, our definition of cleantech activity and the cleantech workforce will be provided, after which we're going to present some results from our 2019 survey of employers who are active in the cleantech sector. We'll look ahead some market trends, and then we'll wrap up the presentation with some workforce solutions that EcoCanada provides to employers in the cleantech sector and beyond. Before we begin, I would like to say that the results we will be presenting today were gathered in 2019 and are a reflection of the Canadian economy and clean tech sector at that time. Given the COVID-19 pandemic and its significant impact on the global economy, it is highly likely that activity in the clean tech sector has slowed along with overall economic activity. As the global economy recovers following the pandemic, we anticipate recovery in clean tech activity will also follow. The study we're going to be presenting had multiple purposes, multiple objectives. The first objective was to research trends in the Canadian and global clean tech sectors. This was undertaken between March and April 2019. We then worked to establish a validated definition of clean tech activity, its sector, and its workforce. The purpose of this was to create a definition that is uniform for research to be conducted in the future by EcoCanada as well as by other organizations. We then wanted to gather information about clean tech employers and their challenges with respect to recruiting and retaining employees. That survey was conducted between June and December 2019. Next, let's look at some trends in clean tech. One overarching finding of our research into the Canadian clean tech sector is that Canadians are succeeding at generating ideas and developing them into promising new technologies. Unfortunately, Canadian clean tech enterprises are struggling to translate those promising technologies into viable commercial products. As a result, business opportunities, wealth, and job creation are not what we would like to see in this sector. According to Analytica Advisors' 2017 Canadian Clean Technology Industry Report, the global clean tech export market in 2015 was valued at $1.15 trillion. It's a big sector. That amount was up about 30% from 2008, and it's estimated to grow to another 2.5 trillion by 2022. Again, before the COVID-19 pandemic, so these numbers may be reevaluated going forward. Canada's share in 2015 was about 1.43% of the export market. That's about 16th overall globally, which is not bad, but not as good as we could do, or what we'd like to do. One factor of consideration is that the United States is the primary customer for Canadian clean tech goods and services, which is a bit of a risk given the volatility of US environmental policy. Expanding Canada's clean tech economy is going to require developing new export markets and expanding our global presence as clean tech suppliers. Regarding the demand for clean tech, roughly 10% of enterprises in Canada reported that they use clean tech goods and services between 2015 and 2017. So about 10% of enterprises are using clean tech goods and services. Some sectors, however, are much more widely adopting clean tech goods and services. For example, pipeline transportation. About 38% of pipeline transportation enterprises indicated that they have adopted or used clean tech goods and services. 36% of utilities use Cleantech. 22% of rail and water transportation services use Cleantech, and 20% of oil and gas extraction, the industry which is considered to be less clean industry, is above the grade in terms of adopting clean technology. While Canada's share of the global export market has lagged behind other countries, Canada is first in terms of clean tech funding, according to the 2017 Global Clean Tech Innovation Index. One reason is that the Government of Canada has invested $2.3 billion in the clean tech sector since 2017. On top of that, clean tech venture funds have recently reached $200 million in commitments. In order to facilitate the growth of the sector, the Government of Canada has also developed a Clean Growth Hub, which is an enterprise designed to help clean tech developers and adopters navigate the federal ecosystem of programs and services. Support is available for a wide range of clean tech activities, including research and development, pilot and demonstration projects, commercialization and market entry opportunities, growth and scale up, export development, and clean tech adoption. In terms of technological trends, there are a number of areas that are expected to see the most growth or enhancement in the coming years. Areas that are most likely to see clean tech development are advanced material efficiency, which is designing material to be less resource intensive in their production, less resource intensive in their use, more durable, and/or more easily reused or recycled. Resource extraction is another area where we're looking to further the responsible and sustainable development of natural resources. Big data analytics is a big area. Big data on things such as weather shifts, energy consumption, emissions, atmosphere, and water conditions are crucial to renewable energy providers as well as other energy users. In the transportation sector, we're looking at advancements in autonomous vehicles, electrification of vehicles, and transportation as a service. For energy systems, we're looking at widespread adoption or development of renewable energy systems and more efficient use of non-renewable energy sources. And then the Internet of Things. There's a lot of clean tech which is powered by Internet of Things-based systems, which generate billions of terabytes of data from trackers, sensors, cameras, audio detectors, and other enterprises armed with advanced intelligence-based recognition and analysis capabilities. I will now turn it over to Claudine for an overview of our definition of the clean tech workforce.
Thank you so much, Jenny, and really great overview of our literature review around clean tech trends. And we do promise that we will continue monitoring trends in clean tech, including potentially the impacts of the more recent trends that has probably brought about changes in various industries, which the clean tech is probably not excused from. I did want to give a brief overview or cover for sure an exercise that we did as part of this research, which is a very important exercise around defining the clean tech sector. One of the things we encountered when we were looking at the different sources of information around clean tech, whether we're talking about the economy and or the workforce is that there were actually varying definitions of the clean tech sector within Canada and across the globe. And we found that there's two actual extreme definitions of clean tech, and there's many more definitions in between. On one hand, there is a definition of clean tech that it spans the whole economy, where every aspect of the supply chain, including organizations that are involved in supplying or providing, organizations that use or adopt, and organizations that support or promote clean tech activity are captured in that clean tech definition. On the other hand, we've seen several studies, and more so around this part, where there's clean tech is limited to the defining it based on businesses that are actually pure play clean tech companies. Pure play just basically means 100% of their company's businesses, revenues, and activities are associated with clean tech. And they're definitely the ones that are more directly involved in manufacturing, constructing, providing services to, or researching and developing clean technology. As you can appreciate, that's a smaller window or definition of clean tech, but studying that clean tech sector from that lens also has its merits. Now, I wanted to give you a sense of some of the numbers that are out there with respect to the clean tech sector, and majority of the studies that I'm going to cite really lean more towards the definition that you see on the right side. For example, in BC, KPMG, the consulting firm, actually did a study for the province of BC and found that there were 273 businesses employing 13,000 people that were involved in the pure play clean tech sector in 2016. And as well in Alberta, the Actia Group, it's the Alberta Clean Technology Industry Alliance Group, actually estimated that there were 250 pure play clean tech firms in Alberta in 2018. And 41 firms that they surveyed amongst that 250 population or universe reported employing about 1,800 people in Alberta. Now, another firm that actually does a mix of pure play and partial play companies is called Analytica Advisors, and I believe they do their clean tech workforce estimates, if I'm not mistaken, on an annual or every 2 to 3 years. It's called Analytica Advisors, and their last report, which was, I think, as of 2015, surveyed 850 firms and that are pure play and partial play, and their estimates were about 55,200 direct clean tech jobs across Canada in 2015. So we see a lot of studies that actually use the definition that you're seeing on the right side, and to some extent moving to the left side. But there's not really an existing study that has encapsulated the whole economy. And I can appreciate how difficult measuring that clean tech sector and the workforce is from that lens. But Eco-Canada did try to do it in that lens. And so Jenny will be overviewing our estimates or the numbers that we were able to gather using a survey of that whole economy. So we first had to define what clean tech means to Eco-Canada, and we hope that this definition actually resonates with our audience today and everyone that we talk to that are very interested in measuring the clean tech workforce. First, we started with a definition of clean tech itself. This is not new definition. In fact, you will find that majority of the organizations that are in the clean tech space probably defines clean tech in this regard. First, it has to be a process, product, or service that is associated with technology. And with technology, we found that there are different outcomes that you want to achieve when it comes to clean technology. And that is that it provides superior performance or lower cost than the current norm or standard. It minimizes negative environmental impacts and makes more efficient and responsible use of natural resources. when I look at this definition, I think three keywords: win, 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 right? This is really a good technology that needs to be pursued. And I think society and even businesses are really moving towards looking for solutions that support these three objectives. And that is great. Now, when we think about that clean tech portion, and then we then expand that to the organizations that will be involved in this, in pursuing clean tech, then really that's why we came across that decision, or we landed at the decision to really include all industries that are really involved in providing, advancing, or investing in clean tech. Everybody is a player, including natural resource companies that are producing and distributing natural resources, but also want to do things better. Now, clean tech workforce then, using that definition of the clean tech sector, or is any worker that either has clean tech specific competencies or required to have clean tech specific competencies to perform their job. But it also includes the many workers that may not have these specific competencies, but are very critical to a company's clean tech business activities or operations. So I'm going to give an example. By this definition, we would include a clean tech specialist or advisor that's hired in a mining company, but we would also include an accountant that might be working in a pure play clean tech firm who actually supports the clean tech business operations for the mere fact that the company is pure play in clean tech. Now, keep in mind that this definition of the sector and the clean tech workforce likely will be in constant evolution. And the same applies to the product, process, or service that would actually be considered clean tech. What could be considered clean tech today may not be considered clean tech 5 years from now. And it's a very subjective or moving definition. And I think the same goes into looking at it from whether a country would consider something clean tech, and whereas in another part of the world, that may no longer be considered clean tech. So I leave you with those thoughts. And let me move to the final piece that we worked on in terms of defining clean tech. One of the things we discovered is, there are many segments or market segments in clean tech. And here in your slide, you're going to see some of those that we have identified through our research and consultation process. I do want to make it clear, you have to think about the definition that we just presented in the previous slide when you evaluate the market segments here. We're not suggesting that all energy efficiency work, for example, is clean tech, but definitely a portion of that energy efficiency work would be considered clean tech based on our proposed definition. And that's the primary thing that we actually realized when we were doing this research, is that clean tech is a subset of the environmental workforce that EcoCanada acknowledges. And so it is a small portion relatively to the environmental workforce, but it's also a very important sector within the environmental workforce. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Jenny to talk about the HR trends or insights that we revealed from our research.
Thanks, Claudine. That was a great overview of our definition of the clean tech sector and its workforce, which, as you said, is quite different from the definitions provided by other organizations that are providing data. One of our objectives, as I said at the beginning of the webinar, is that we want to provide a definition that both EcoCanada and other organizations can use going forward to produce research that is consistent across the board. One type of research that we can do based on this definition is a survey of clean tech employers. Once we've defined who clean tech employers are, we can reach out to them and ask them what's going on in their industry. When we did a survey of 81 clean tech employers last year, we found that 30% of respondents told us that more than half of their workers were tied to Cleantech activity. These Cleantech employers came from a variety of different industries, including natural resources, utilities, construction, manufacturing, professional scientific and technical services. Those include the environmental protection companies, the environmental consultants, as well as architecture firms and engineering firms, waste management and remediation services, educational services, public administration, pretty much every sector except for art and culture. In addition, the survey respondents, the 81 firms that we talked with, employed as a group more than 32,000 workers. Now that was their entire workforce. Some of those firms were very small. 51% had fewer than 100 employees. Some were also very large. Another 14% had 600 plus employees. So we had a wide range of types of companies included in our survey calculations. As a whole, the 81 survey respondents we talked to employed an estimated 15,000 Cleantech workers. So that was the percentage of their workforce. The total workforce was about 40% engaged in Cleantech activities. There are a vast range of opportunities for Cleantech companies to develop products and to grow their marketplace. Cleantech segments where they were most active in our survey respondents included support services, e.g. research and development, energy efficiency and green building materials was another large area of work of activity, as was waste reduction and life cycle management. For those businesses that we surveyed, Cleantech revenue was driven by three primary factors: increasing the local demand for their product, a greater corporate environmental commitment overall across Canada, and overall market growth. So as the economy grows, as individual corporations and organizations across Canada are more committed to environmental protection, and as the demand for goods and services of a Cleantech nature in Canada grows, we see the revenue of Cleantech companies grow. About 4% of our respondents indicated that half to all of their annual revenues were attributed to Cleantech, which tells us that a vast majority of respondents had Cleantech as a portion of their, or a small proportion of their overall business activities. There are some workforce challenges that were identified in our research as well. We asked about recruitment and retention going forward, and Cleantech employment is expected to rise over the next 2 years. Again, let me remind you that this is research done in 2019, so the forecast was based on a pre-COVID-19 pandemic scenario. That said, prior to the pandemic, almost half of respondents planned to hire Cleantech positions over the next 24 months, adding up to about 1,800 new jobs. At the time, employers were struggling to fill Cleantech positions across the board, from drivers and machine operators, tradespeople, engineers, drafters, designers, geologists, lab specialists, environmental technicians, all the way up to project managers and directors of the company. Part of the cause of this struggle is has been identified as the volatility of the Cleantech sector. As we're dealing with companies that are innovative, developing new technologies, new products, and trying to bring them to market, they are the most susceptible to business failure. And so the volatility of the market, the possibility that the company is not going to continue to exist if it can't develop the market opportunities that it wants to, that makes employees a little bit concerned. It makes them a little bit less willing to devote their resources and time to develop that company, to work for that company. When they have other options available to them, a lot of workers are going to choose a less volatile sector to work in. So looking ahead, we have three main key learnings from the research that we've done so far. The first is that an adequate supply of skilled workers is really important to supporting Canadian clean tech growth. The companies that develop these wonderful new ideas and brilliant new technologies need workers. They need finance, they need accounting, they need engineering, they need business development, they need operations workers, all across the board in order to be able to build their business. Employers are looking at different strategies in the clean tech sector, but overall, a broader, more strategic workforce solution across the industry would be helpful to ensure the talent stream is being developed for that sector. And the last finding is that there is a need for a standardized clean tech definition, along with good, reliable data based on that definition for us to understand what's going on in the clean tech sector. Next, I'll pass it off to Claudine for a discussion of some of the ways that EcoCanada can help out the clean tech sector as well as other environmental employers.
Thank you, Jenny. And no, for everyone that's interested in being part of the clean tech workforce, some of the programs I'm about to overview also could help support you as an individual. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, considering we want to get into our Q&A portion. So just really going to overview some of these programs very quickly. As some of you may be aware, we offer wage support for employers, and also that wage support also benefits individuals that want to get into the environmental workforce. So one of our wage programs or employment programs are student work placement or co-op funding program, where we are currently receiving applications for the summer period. Here are some of the eligibility requirements around our student work placement program, and I do encourage you to take a look at our website to find out more and to get more information about this really good program. Next is we do offer funding for full-time jobs as well, and we cover up to 50% of the salary and some funding for professional development that is really going to be useful in today's world. I think there's, let's not, waste the opportunity of any funding for training and upskilling where we can, especially when there's a lot of available stuff online. And so I do recommend that if this is an option for you, and as well employers that are currently hiring and looking for support, then this is something that might be of interest if you qualify. Now, the other thing, as I was alluding to just a little bit ago, is the fact that there's a wealth of online courses and webinars, and EcoCanada also offers a variety of online courses and webinars ranging from knowledge, technical skills, or even soft skills that are really very important, as we found in another research we conducted amongst environmental employers. And so here are some of the courses that are available on our website. And I do want to point out that we actually have, or we're currently offering a 40% discount of all our paid for online courses and webinars. I believe the discount is supposed to end tomorrow, but I hear from Hannah that we're actually extending our sale. So I'll let her provide all the details around that offer. Okay, I'm trying to move to the next slide. Let me see if I can do that again. Okay, and then lastly, we also offer a certification program to recognize the many environmental practitioners that are in the environmental sector across all industries. And so we offer different levels of our, what we call our environmental professional designation. And you could be, in a junior role that's really trying to just carve your career path within the environmental profession. Or you could be someone that's more senior with 5 or more years of experience. And lastly, you could be involved in auditing, and that kind of beautiful work really requires a lot of experience and knowledge around environmental practice. And that's where environmental auditors would be maybe interested in getting recognized for their competencies. And so I do welcome, encourage you to look at that. If you're very junior to the environmental profession, we offer obviously mentorship programs and career advancement guidelines and that kind of stuff. So it might be a good opportunity to take advantage of what we're offering as well in this regard, and an ability to network with more senior experienced people in the profession. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Vanessa, who will look after our Q&A portion.
Thank you, Claudine. Thank you, Claudine and Jenny, for that wonderful presentation on the clean tech industry. We have a couple questions here. The first one being, how is clean tech utilized in the cradle-to-cradle cycle model that is mandatory for companies in Ontario or Canada as a whole to be used?
Thank you for that question. Clean tech activities come in a variety of shapes and sizes. One example of a clean tech company that I was pleased to have contact with was out in Ontario. It's an organization that is taking plastic containers from food waste and taking food waste itself and turning that into compostable containers for food delivery, for food products. That's just one example of the types of clean tech development that's taking place across Canada. Waste management, waste remediation, life cycle management are areas where a number of companies are focused. The use and reuse of products, the recycling of products, the development of advanced materials, which require less resource intensive production or more durable and last a longer period of time, are all elements of the clean tech sector in Canada.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. Anything to add, Claudine?
I think Jenny had captured it, and I do want to mention water and wastewater probably is another area where obviously the use and reuse of that would be another important element, and where clean tech can really play a big role in.
Okay, awesome. Another question we have here is, for the clean tech definition, the first sub-bullet on our proposed definition slide says, provide superior performance or lower cost. Is the or correct? If so, why would lower cost alone be sufficient? In my opinion, if the product or service doesn't offer physical efficiency or reduced environmental impact, then it isn't cleaner than the status quo.
That's a really good point. I think where we have discovered where, there's a lot of companies that are currently trying to get into the clean tech space, and some are in the earlier phases of development, and we suspect obviously the cost to the cost of the Cleantech product or service probably is higher than the current standard. Now, as things evolve and technology gets evolves more around that aspect, we do believe that it will be very reasonable for either individuals or businesses that are trying to adopt or use this Cleantech. Now, we want to make it clear that lower cost doesn't have to just be financial in nature. Jenny probably could speak to this more, but we're actually looking more at the greater economic cost of things and whether at large is Cleantech offering either superior performance or lower economic costs overall. Jenny, do you want to, do your magic of explaining the economic pieces around these parts?
Sure, no problem, Claudine. So from an economic standpoint, we consider two basic types of costs from any activity. One is the private cost. The other is the social cost or the external cost. So the private cost is what you would think it would be. It's simply the cost to the individual or to the organization of using that particular product or service. So whatever outlay is required in terms of money or in terms of time in order to take advantage of that product or service. The social cost is often different than the private cost. As an example, we know that the private cost of driving an automobile that's gas driven or gas powered is that you have to pay for the gasoline that goes in the car, plus any maintenance or other insurance costs that are required to maintain the automobile. From a private standpoint, that's the consideration. From a social standpoint, we also know that one person's decision to drive an automobile also affects air pollution. It also affects traffic. It also affects noise pollution in the sense that automobiles can be very noisy as well. These are social costs. And so what we're looking for, we're looking for technology that may not be necessarily lower cost in terms of the private cost to the individual who's going to be purchasing it, but are lower cost in terms of the social or external costs.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Jenny. Another question we have here is, how do you deal with an inherent incentive on the part of employers to state that a higher number of their positions are clean tech?
Vanessa, sorry, could you repeat that question?
How do you deal with an inherent incentive on the part of employers to state that a higher number of their positions are clean tech?
Jenny, do you have any comments on that one?
Well, we are aware, as any survey developers are, that there are a number of different potential biases in terms of responses. Biases that can have to do with the individual who's being surveyed, or biases that have to do with the surveyors or the survey questions themselves. Well, it's not something we can control. That is to say, we can't say for sure whether or not an individual is telling us the truth with regard to their clean tech activities. We are aware that other biases would suggest that they might understate their clean tech activity or their clean tech workforce. So to the extent, for example, that a firm may consider that the technology that they're working on, it has evolved beyond the stage at which it would be considered a clean technology, an innovative technology. That company may not attribute that workforce involved in that particular product or service to clean tech activity. So we know that the bias exists. We do our best to develop questions that will permit us to eliminate as much bias as possible, but we also are aware that biases can counteract each other. And it's mostly just important to be aware that those biases exist and to take the information that we get from the survey respondents as it is, with no real attempt to necessarily generalize it across the board.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. Couple more questions here are, were the companies looking to develop clean tech initiatives, or was it that new employees brought in sustainability principles and promoted it to their employers?
That's a really good question. And I think honestly, the pressure comes from multiple directions or sources. So I do think that, as Jenny had pointed out earlier in one of her slides, companies have now more have prioritized environmental, minimizing the environmental impacts within their own operations. So that's something that all employers, a number of employers in Canada especially, are working towards. But I do acknowledge also that, even individuals and even employees within businesses are now demanding, or it's a part of a very important requirement for them before they get involved with any business or be employed as a staff member, that is something that's also important to them. And so I think, it's great that, on many levels, and whether you're talking about organizations or an individual, there's, and as well government plays a big role as well in there, that everyone's moving towards, doing, reducing or the environmental impacts, but also trying to do what makes business or economic sense for all. And so that's the beauty of clean tech, is that it does have that win-win-win, as I've noted earlier. Jenny, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't. I think you covered that well.
Perfect. Thank you, Claudine. Another question here is, how does big data analytics relate to the environment?
So this is going back to the slide where we were showing the various different areas that are important or that are evolving in terms of the clean tech activities. Big data is allowing researchers and service providers to generate services or technologies that can more accurately, more precisely, more cleanly complete the service or product activity that's required. So to give you an example, in order for a wind turbine farm to be as efficient as possible, the siting of the wind turbines is going to depend upon a lot of information about weather patterns, about bird migration, about the strength and the tensile nature of the wind turbines themselves. It's also going to depend on things like the demand for the electricity that's going to be produced in that particular wind farm. All of that information is part of the big data analytics world that we are living in now. The more information that organizations can get about the environment in which they're operating, the more effectively they can provide the service or good that they are providing.
I'll give a quick example too of something I heard from a circular economy workshop that I attended, where a company was trying to understand the needs and the supply of office furniture and equipment that might be available from one company and needed in another company with some repurposing required. And so imagine maintaining a database of those needs and wants and availabilities, and trying to kind of connect the dots between that supply chain of and having to support that circular economy. That I can imagine how big that data set is, and that's exactly what the company that was offering the service is doing in support of the circular economy.
Okay, thank you, Claudine and Jenny. Couple more questions here. Just one moment. Why was arts and culture left out?
It wasn't left out. It's that we didn't find any companies that were engaged in clean tech activities. That is to say, the development of clean technology products or services in the arts and culture sector.
During our research.
During our research, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And the last question here is it possible to source fund for individual ideas? If yes, how?
Well, my recommendation would be to go to the Clean Growth Hub. The government has done a great job in terms of providing support, financial support for individuals who are looking to develop new sustainable technology or clean technology ideas. There are programs available for companies at that basic idea stage. There are funding programs available for those who are at the development of a pilot product stage. There's funding available for companies that are looking to expand their business, to take it to the next level, to find export markets, to develop a commercial factory in order to be able to produce on a larger scale. The government provides a wide range of funding opportunities, and I think the Clean Growth Hub is probably the first place I would send you.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. Anything to add, Claudine?
No, I think Jenny covered it beautifully.
Okay.
There's also some provincial organizations too that probably would be worth looking into as well.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for your questions, and I'll pass it back to Hannah.
Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you again to Claudine and Jenny. I know we had some technical issues at the start, but it takes more than a little bit of software trouble to affect our wonderful EcoCanada presenters. So thank you so much for battling through today. It was so interesting to hear your presentation.
Thank you so much, Hannah and Vanessa as well.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody who joined us.
Yeah, again, thank you to everyone on the line for persevering with the technical issues we had today. If you have further questions or you think of something afterwards, you feel free to reach out to events@eco.ca, and I can put those questions to Jenny and Claudine. I don't know about anyone else, in these uncertain times, it's really nice to be able to connect with you all today and to speak to you about Cleantech. And for me, it was just nice to be able to speak to someone who isn't my boyfriend or my dog. So it's really important that we find that we find ways to stay connected in the virtual world. And EcoCanada is committed to continuing to support our members and environmental professionals across Canada throughout the COVID-19 crisis. To do this, we're looking for more and more ways to provide you with virtual content and resources. So we're really going to be ramping up our webinar schedule. We have another webinar scheduled for April 8th, which is all about how to successfully transition to home working and make sure that you can be effective at home and actually enjoy the experience. So that should be really good, and it'll be up on our website today. And that's going to be free of charge, so make sure you register for that. We're also looking at ways to deliver virtual training and workshops. So please keep an eye on our events page on the website for further information once we work out what the best software to do that will be. And as Claudine mentioned, we're currently offering 40% off all of our online training and webinars, which is a great thing for remote teams to kind of do if you have some time to kill at the moment. So please check out our website, and that's going to run till April 15th. All the information is on our online training pages. Thank you again for everyone who dialed in. I hope you have a great day, and we'll hopefully see you at our next webinar. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, and take care.